previously aired broadcasts of News for the Soul online at newsforthesoul.com. And let's get back to the show.
Shit, I didn't.
It's time for Conscious Parenting with Sandra Jones-Keller and family. Welcome back. Let's get you to reintroduce yourself, your show, and what's up for today.
Hello, and thank you, Nicole. I am Sandra Jones-Keller, Conscious Parenting coach and author. Joining me today is my husband, Thomas, and we have a special guest. Our daughter is joining us from college. Hello, Mecca.
18-year-old daughter.
Hi.
Hi. So if you want your questions answered from my daughter, she's only going to be on for the first 10 or 15 minutes. So go ahead and get your questions in quickly. We're broadcasting live on News for the Soul Radio.
She has gone off to college 1,000 miles away, and she is in her first semester of college. So if you are having anxiety from your child moving away, send her questions in quickly while she's still on.
Yeah, so we're broadcasting live on News for the Soul Radio and on my YouTube channel. Email your questions to ontheair@telus.net or call in to 646-595-4274. Maybe you have a question about discipline or bedtime or being an empty nester, which we have surprisingly found is a very important topic for people. So
and a lot of trouble for a lot of people adjusting.
So whatever is on your mind, we'll do our best to answer it. And even if you have a question that is outside of some of the topics that I just mentioned, please call in. This is the Conscious Parenting Show, so we will answer your question in the most conscious way possible.
That is correct.
So as I said, Mecca is our special guest. For those of you who have been with us for a while, she used to be with us every month. But for the last 2 or 3 episodes, she hasn't been here because she's doing her life. Mm-hmm. All right. So, Mecca, I'm sure some parents are dying to know, what is your biggest challenge adjusting to college?
Well, probably being sick for like 4 weeks. Besides that, I'd say I'm pretty good. I only missed one class.
Woohoo!
So I'm good at like going to my classes because I do enjoy my classes. So that makes it a lot easier. But I'd say like the biggest challenge is like remembering what homework there is too, because they don't like remind you most of the time. Oh. You have to like look on the syllabus, or if it's not on the syllabus, they'll say it in class, and then you have to remember it. And then being sick for 4 weeks.
So
having pneumonia.
So for the listening audience, our daughter was homeschooled from day one until she graduated from high school, and now she is adjusting and adapting to going to classes, lectures, and the college life.
Yes. So being sick for 4 weeks. So we were kind of freaked out about it, to be honest with you, because you've never been sick that long, and you've been home. Mm-hmm. So I was freaked out at first, but then I calmed down. But I was very proud of you because you actually handle it. So you took yourself to the student health center. So why did you do that?
Yeah. Because I was sick. Well, like the first time I went, when was the first time I went? But I don't know. But like I had a few different things going on. Like one time I threw up 4 times in one night.
Oh, God.
And then 1 week I was nauseous the entire week and could barely eat. And then like that developed into a really bad cough, which developed into pneumonia. So I had a few different like sicknesses going on, and it was like come and go. But like I still like did my homework and everything, so I wasn't gonna like get behind on the first 4 weeks.
Okay.
Then I'd be really bad.
Was it? Oh, I'm sorry. I
also napped.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Was it common for other kids, other freshmen to have things going on as well, like illnesses, coughs, hacks, sore throat, anything in common?
Yeah, pretty much most people were sick, or if they weren't sick, they were just like coughing in general. And then there were like few people were sick. A few people got apparently someone else got pneumonia. There's been a lot of people like coughing and stuff, so it's pretty common.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so why didn't you miss classes? So we're talking about parents really learning to trust their kids. And so you said you didn't miss any count. Now you were homeschooled the whole time. So what had you not miss class, or how did you develop the skills to be able to do that?
I don't know. I just really didn't want to miss class.
Mhm.
Like, I wanted to like keep that. Well, also attendance is like part of your grade. So if I miss class, well, you get like 3 absences depending on the class. So if you like miss class, that takes your grade. And because one, I didn't know how I would do in any of my classes because I'd never taken like a college class in college. So I needed that at least attendance,
Right. Okay.
and participation.
Okay.
That was like one of the big reasons. And also, I just didn't want to like miss any classes. I did that with like online school too, because when we have like Zoom calls, I didn't miss any of them.
Wow. Okay.
Just 'cause I didn't,
So you already sounds like you have a lot of discipline and well, self-discipline. So say a little bit about how you develop that, because I really want parents to start trusting their kids and prepare their kids for going away. Because if you're helicoptering or always trying to get them to do everything, that when they do go away, that they actually have to manage their lives.
Mm-hmm. It's as conscious parents and the Conscious Parenting Show, I know that you and I were both. It was really important to give Mecca responsibilities from the earliest age on up. I mean, tell the short story about negotiating bedtime.
Oh, well, when
How old was she?
She was 4 years old, and she decided that 9:30 was too early for her to go to bed. And I came up with what I thought was a brilliant idea of a bedtime alarm, which would go off at 12:45 a.m. and she would get herself in bed by 1 a.m. And we worked out, some kind of guidelines to support both of us. But really, it was about her learning to keep agreements, her learning to get herself in bed. And I'm not saying that 1 a.m. works for everyone. We knew we were going to homeschool, and I was typically up till 1 a.m. So it was a great way for her to, start learning how to manage her time. Okay, we have a question. Let me see if it's for you, Mecca. I'm glad I tuned in right. I love to hear your daughter. Oh, okay, hold on.
This is from Lillian in New Zealand. She says, I'm glad I tuned in right away. I'd love to hear your daughter's perspective in going through this big life change. Does she miss how things used to be at all, or is the feeling of grief just on the side of the parents left at home? Great.
That's a great
question, Nicole.
Did you hear the question, Mecca?
Yeah.
Okay, so she wants to hear your perspective. So how is it for you going through this change?
It was an easy adjustment. I think also because like I was alone a lot before, so I'm kind of used to doing things on my own. So even when I went to school, I had a friend group, but I still like do things on my own.
Okay.
So it's been pretty easy, actually. I also didn't like Florida.
Right.
So.
Okay, and so the other part is, does she miss how things used to be at all, or is the feeling of grief just on the side of the parents left at home?
I miss my friends. I miss skating. I miss home-cooked meals. That's about it.
That's
okay.
About it.
I don't have much desire to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But okay, yes, but I will say though, we talk to you more now than when you lived at home.
Yes, because you call us daily, and
we talk, and you share. Like when we would drive you up to the skating rink, you would like be just on your phone or listening to a book or doing your own thing and not really talking.
Right.
Yeah, well, I also lived with you, so you were there for everything.
So now you enjoy talking to us?
Yeah. Well, also, interesting things are happening. Like, nothing interesting happened before. There's
Oh,
nothing to talk about.
so you have things to share that are
Like,
interesting.
you knew everything that was going on in my life, and nothing interesting was ever happening.
A good point.
So I didn't have anything to talk about.
Oh.
And
Okay.
do you hear from your fellow students longing to go home or anything like that, missing their parents or home cooked meal?
Well, some of the friends just go home
They just go home.
because they
Well,
live nearby.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And how often do they go home?
I don't know about any of the longer distance.
Okay.
What?
How often do they go home?
What? Well, like the one who lives like 30 minutes, she goes home almost every weekend.
Okay.
Well, that's recent. That's a recent change, though. And then like another friend, she lives 2 hours away. She goes home, maybe like 2 to 3 times a month.
Okay.
And then another friend, like once a month, probably.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Lillian in New Zealand, they may not really say that they miss you, but as you know, my daughter says her friends go home. She's calling home. We actually talk to her more now that she doesn't live here than ever before.
And then when she is calling home, she's not calling home longing to come back here. She's just sharing her life.
I don't want to come back.
She doesn't want to come back.
Calling to connect, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, just calling because it's not deep and profound conversations. We're just really touching with each other.
Right.
So Lillian, thank you so much for your question. Okay, Mecca, so just quickly, because I said only 15 minutes and we're already at about 12.
Unless she wants to stay longer.
Yeah, unless you want to stay. So you're an only child. You had your own room for your whole life.
I know where this is going.
So how have you had to learn to navigate having a roommate boyfriend over all the time, really, and then having a lot of people over? You went from really being alone a lot to being very socially active. So how's that adjustment been for you?
Mostly, I sleep. My midday nap was my favorite. I look forward to them every day.
Okay.
Pretty much it. Yeah, like if I'm tired, I'll go to sleep. And like if we're hanging out, our friends would like ask if I want them to leave. Most of them, step one. And so everyone's like respectful of boundaries. Like we're all students, so we all need sleep, and we also want to hang out. So we all figure out how to like balance our time. And then like during most of the day, like on alone time, either like going to class or taking a nap. And then like in the evening for dinner, we'll connect back. So it's not constant activity, like social activity, but it's still a lot. So I sleep it off.
You sleep a lot.
So let me ask you this, Mecca. Do you wish you had a sibling growing up now after experiencing so many people in your room?
Would it have been easier?
No. No. I want my own room next year. I don't want to share another room.
So how do you go about getting your alone time?
Sleeping.
I
put my headphones on. I pull my bonnet over my eyes. I'm out to the world.
That's honest.
And so how can parents support their kids during this time? Like, what are some do's and don'ts for parents that you see?
Answer their calls.
What else?
I don't know what else.
Do you have any? Do you notice any of your? I don't know what to say. Do you notice any of your fellow classmates or roommates or the group you hang out with? Do they miss their families terribly, or do they complain about their parents longing for their children, or any conversation at all like that, or nothing?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay.
Like most, I miss my dog.
I was like, oh, really?
That's the most common thing I've heard. And then maybe, because like half of the friend group is in like a long distance relationship. So it's like, oh, I miss my partner, or I miss my dog.
Okay.
Or cat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's honest.
And so how do you like being responsible for taking care of yourself? Like you got sick, so you had to take it.
So
Yeah, but you got sick, and so you had to like completely take care of yourself. So how do you like having to take care of yourself?
Yeah. It's fine. I just like do whatever I need to do, like go to the health center, or just take a nap, or survive on Dayquil for a week.
Which didn't work very well, but that's okay.
Well, I mean, I didn't die, so it worked pretty well.
It worked pretty well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, honey. I said 15 minutes. So are you going to stay on, or are you going to go?
You have me for like 6 more minutes.
5 to 6 more minutes. Good. Oh, how has the transformation from homeschool education been to college education? How has that been? Is it stressful? Were you already ahead of the game? How's that going?
Fine. The classes are only like an hour and 15 minutes. So it's not like you have to like sit, unless it's like lab, but you don't really have to just sit and listen to someone drone on. Every class is interactive in some way, either like group interactive or project. So, and they're short, so they keep it interesting. And then like I'm used to doing schoolwork on my own. So I did that my entire life. That's not much of a change.
Okay.
And what I really like is, when I was in school years and years and years ago, we used textbooks, but at your school, it's articles and
They're still textbooks, but it's a lot of modern articles. Yeah.
Right.
Scholarly articles.
Yeah, and what I like about that is they're up to date, because when you have a textbook that's and especially how fast time is going. So even a textbook that's 5 years old or 10 years old, there's so much that happens now in life. So I really like how
it's kept more up to date because it's online.
Well, just like even you're reading Stacey Abrams' book, and that's a very new book. So I really like how that. So do you school for you?
Another good question. Great.
So say more about that, because a lot of parents are all in on school choice and trying to get their kid to go to a particular school or something. And we had never heard of where you're going. And when we went, we liked it and you liked it. So just say something about allowing, and you found the school. So say something about just allowing you to find the school so that you're happy where you are.
Well, I had my own criteria, and then I worked off that criteria, and that criteria was a pretty school. That was the first necessity. And the school is very pretty.
It's very pretty. And what else?
Clubs?
Yeah, but I'm not in any. I don't know. Let them pick what they want. Like find schools on whatever whatever criteria they want.
Yeah.
And you were talking, Sandra, about trusting your child. We let our daughter work out her own criteria, do her own search, and then we took a trip together to 3 different colleges that she was interested in, and trusting more than just herself, trusting life as a conscious parent, that she was going to find the perfect place for her, even though it may or may not have looked like the criteria I would have had in my mind. But it ended up being better than anything I could have ever imagined, because I stayed out of it. My wife stayed out of it for the most part. and the school is academically off the charts. And, you know, as she said in the beginning, her main criteria was a pretty school.
A pretty school. And I remember trees was one of them. Lots of trees and clubs.
And
Yeah.
clubs, the right clubs.
Yeah, but I mean, when we went on the college tour last summer, the second school that we visited was my top school.
Right.
And so we barely even finished the tour when you were like, I hate it. I don't like it. And
you didn't even finish the tour when we were outside the town. Not even in school, in the town. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
What didn't you like? Was it a feeling? What?
Everything.
Everything.
I didn't like anything about it.
And so had we tried to, you know, we went on the tour, we flew up there and then drove there a few hours. So we were at the school.
Absolutely.
But I realized very quickly that it didn't matter that this was my top school because I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah.
And that to try to even convince you or to lean into it when you were very, very, very clear that you didn't like it. And I think a lot of parents have a vision of the school or what their kids are going to study, and then they push them in that direction, and then they maybe don't do well in school or they don't like it because it's not the right school for them. So I just think that's a very important point, parents, to, you know, you just got to trust your kids.
Yeah, and trust that their guidance in conscious parenting, their guides, just like our guides, are advising them whether they hear it or not, or know it or not. And it's amazing what they work out if we stay out of it in a large portion of the way, part of the way.
And so when you were looking, you used to be very interested in forensic science.
That's right.
And then this school does not have forensic science, but what's the new thing that you are loving there? We were just talking about the other day.
Costume?
Yeah. Yeah. So now you used to spend hours, you know, sewing and creating things, and now you're actually getting school credit for it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another thing. You thought, you know, you really were interested in forensics, and you may still be, but you opened yourself up and went to a school that didn't have forensics, but that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Are your friends there? Sounds like your friends are there.
No, I was just walking past.
Oh, okay. And so that's another thing. So, you know, parents, just be open. And I remember when we went to the orientation, or we were there for the open house or a couple of times, and the school administrators were just talking about, don't worry about what your kids major in. They can major in anything and still go in. They can major in philosophy and still go to medical school or law school, if that's what they want, or business school. Because it's really, and this is a small liberal arts college, so it's really about a holistic approach.
Right. That is what they preach. So, Mecca, let me ask you this question. As soon as I find it here again, how can we support you, and how can other parents support their kids during this time of transitioning from hometown life to university life away from them? How can the parents support the students? What would you recommend?
Letting them pick the college they want to go to.
And what else?
That's it. I can't think of anything else.
Okay. So one last question for you. So how did you make friends?
That's a good one.
My roommate.
Say more about that.
Well, her class, she made friends with the people in her class, and then I made friends with them, and then we also one of our friends knew another person, and then so her and her roommate joined the group. And then, also a lot of classes are designed to make you meet people. So they'll have you, talk to your table partner, talk to your group partner. And then you'll, sort of just get to know people that way.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And you can hang on if you want, or just let me know when you're leaving.
I'm leaving.
Oh, okay. Sweetie.
Bye.
Broadcasting live on News for the Soul Radio and channel, which is Sandra Jones-Keller. If you want to see what we look like, email your questions to ontheair@telus.net or call in to 646-595-4274.
Any questions will be honored, and we're also focusing on empty nesters during this show.
And so we've had a very interesting week. And so I had a couple things that I wanted to talk about. So do you want to go first, or you want me to go, or what?
Go, you start out. Let's see where it goes.
So over the last 3 shows, we've been talking about being empty nesters, and a lot of parents are struggling.
Yes.
Really struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I really saw this week, because Mecca had an issue, and so what I really saw this week, parents, is that these are emerging adults. And so that's the term that her school used. They're emerging adults. And so I want you to be available to participate and to support them. You are their lifeline. And so if you're at home depressed or upset and consumed with your own feelings and loneliness, then you may not be available to support your kid as they're learning to navigate life. Because just because they're not here, our parenting now looks different. It's like now she's 1,000 miles away and we can't just automatically jump in or fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to be that lifeline so that they want to call home. They don't want to feel like they've disappointed you, or they don't want to feel guilty because they left and then they won't call. And so I just really invite you as an empty nester to really dig deep and start moving out of that space so that you can be there to support your kid through this really dynamic transition that they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we actually talk to our daughter more now that she's not living here than when she was, because she calls and we chat and we connect. And when she was here, she spent just a lot of time in her room, or she was skating, or she was out with her friends or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so just breathe into that space and get the support that you need so that you can be available for your child as they transition into
That's
being
great.
that.
I have something I'd like to talk about that dovetails onto that idea.
Okay.
We as parents, our child are now moving from childhood phase to adulthood phase. We are moving from parenting to adulthood phase. So the children and the parents are now evolving new lives again, in a new relationship, but new lives for ourselves. It became apparent to me over the Halloween episode, because that was the first time we had not been with our daughter during a holiday in 18 years. So it became obvious to me that I just didn't want to repeat the same motions that I was doing when I was with her for Halloween. I wanted to create a life for myself and my wife that is new and unique, and honoring ourselves now in our new phase of life as well. So I don't even remember what we did for that holiday, but
You just went downtown and hung out.
yeah, to be honest, it's a little bit boring, but it was a little bit of that awkward phase of where I'm moving from dad into a life of my own now, and a marriage of my own, and it's a new relationship in many ways. And so, even though I had to through that, walking around downtown and stuff, that was fine, and I felt some longing and missing our daughter, but I wanted to make sure I pushed myself in that direction forward into, because our lives only get sweeter and sweeter from here.
Yeah, because as parents, and especially as homeschool parents,
Yeah.
like our social activities were centered around her, taking her skating,
Yeah.
our outing.
So
much of our life was centered around her and her activities. And so now she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're having to find our way.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it can be done. And
absolutely.
And like I said, this week she was having some issues, and I wanted to jump in and say, okay, well, I'll call the dean. I'm going to do this. But okay, what is it that, because she is learning how to navigate being in the world, and her whole life, because she's an only child, has really, been catered to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have catered to her. She's our only child. And so she's lived in a world where it was kind of all about her.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's not. And so she's going through growing pains, and we're going through growing pains, watching her go through growing pains. Okay, we have a question from Kelly in New York.
It's interesting exploring this openly and truthfully, as I haven't really heard the conversation being said this way before. It felt to me like a deep grief, no different than a death in some ways. Yeah. That phase of life is done and gone forever, and part of me feels that it's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
I will never fully recover. Those were the most happiest, fulfilling times of my life. No matter what new thing I focus on, it's never going to be the same. It's been 11 years since my last one left the nest, and that pain is still down in there. If you see anything I may be missing, I'd love to your input.
Kelly, thank you for your question. We've been really getting this question a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we only had one child. And so everything was centered around her.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is that, Kelly, you have a purpose that goes beyond just being a mom. You came here with your own kind of blueprint for life, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so my invitation to you is to go back to basics. What do I like to do? What excites me? You have the freedom now to do any of it. Our children will always be our children. My baby will always be my baby. I don't care how old she is. But I'm also clear that I have gifts to give and life to live,
and now you have the time
trips to
do
explore.
that.
And so now I have the time to do it. I, spent the last literally 18 years devoted to mothering and homeschooling. I did some work in between. I started my business and I wrote 4 books. So I was doing things, but most of my energy was really focused on my daughter. And a couple of years before I knew she was leaving, I started really reorganizing my life, putting more energy into my business, putting more energy into my relationship, because it's just the two of us now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Kelly, I just really invite you to find a way to be complete with that phase of your life. And then this is a new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And find something that excites you, that can pull you into it, and just be grateful that you had that time with your kids. But your life is not over. I don't think we're meant to grieve our children for the rest of our lives because they have left home. It's the natural cycle. We left home, our parents left their parents, and on, because we all have come here to do something. And I don't think that something is being up underneath our parents.
Yeah.
And wait, one more thing.
Go ahead.
And then I'll let you finish. And then also what helps me, Kelly, is that I do miss my daughter very much. But I realize that it's not about me. She is thriving, and that's what we wanted as parents. And so I miss her. I'm thrilled when she calls, but I'm also more excited for who she's becoming as a young woman. I'm more excited for the friends and the activities and the opportunities that she has. And so when I get upset, it's like, it's my upset. I don't, put that on her, because I want her to thrive. I want her to be happy, and I want her to feel like she can connect with us anytime that she wants. So go ahead now. What were you going to say?
I love what you just said. I'd also say that there are phases in our lives. We had our own childhood with our families and guardians, and then we moved out on our own. Then we had children, and they moved out on their own. And it's no mistake that we are here in this situation now with our child gone, because we're moving into our next phase of life. And it will all, like my wife said, we'll always cherish the memories and have pictures to look back through and cherish them as adults. But there's a reason we're still alive in this moment. And it's not just to coast through the rest of our lives, having no impact on the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
This is a conscious parenting show, not just a parenting show. So the fact that we are here means that we have a purpose, and we're supposed to be here right now. And to contribute something to the rest of this planet would be a wonderful goal to set out to.
Yeah. So, start small, Kelly.
Yeah.
Each day, wake up. Okay, what excites me? What do I feel like doing? And just start doing things that excite you incrementally. And then you'll find more things that excite you, more things that excite you. You're always going to miss your kids.
Absolutely.
But, like I said, for me, my missing her is not nearly as important as my excitement for the life that she's living.
Yes, and I cherish my memories. I do gratitude, 3 gratitudes every morning as a ritual, and I look at the pictures on our shelves in the living room of her as a baby and middle-aged and 18-year-old, and we'll always cherish this phase of my life. And now we're living in a different phase of our life. So it's imperative to create a life well worth living, regardless of our circumstances.
Yeah. And it was funny. We were at the beach or something, and we were watching a family with 2 young boys. And I just said, and this was just, I think on Sunday, I said, I really loved that time with our daughter, and I'm ready for something else. It was like I looked at them, and they were having fun, and it was wonderful, and it brought up memories. But it's like, also, I'm in a different phase of life now. Like, I don't want to do that part.
Been there and done that.
And I'm enjoying learning how to navigate this part of supporting her and learning to trust her.
Because this is a new life. This is a new phase of our lives, but we can consider it a new life. We're definitely in a new relationship with our child.
Yeah.
Who is an adult now.
I know.
So make the best of it. Make the best of every moment of it.
Thing about, and so thank you so much, Kelly in New York, for that. And learning to trust our kids. So that, that comes with time. And so we talked a little bit about helicoptering before. And so I just want to say to parents that you want to give your kids opportunities while they're at home to make choices, to learn how to trust their intuition, to be uncomfortable or even unhappy in this safe container,
Mm-hmm.
so that when they get out into the world, they can function.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to a college volleyball coach once, and he said their biggest complaint was that kids were coming in lacking basic life skills.
Mm-hmm.
So teach your kids how to do laundry, how to cook a basic meal. They don't have to be a gourmet chef, but how to cook a basic meal, pasta, rice and beans, or chicken, whatever they like. Like what kind of medication are they on, or what do they take? What over-the-counter medicines do they take? Like just some basic things so that they don't feel completely lost. Like I was shocked that Mecca was sick for 4 or 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she'd never been sick like that. And she had enough faith in herself to figure out how to handle it. I'm going to read this when you read the last one. This is from Eileen in Connecticut. My challenge is getting my son focused on goals and plans. He seems to be drifting and not choosing a specific college list to apply to. I'm concerned he's going to lose momentum and motivation and end up living at home with us, his parents, playing video games rather than building a successful life. Help is needed. Do you want to start or want me to start?
I'd start.
Okay,
I'd
go
be
ahead.
happy to start.
Go ahead.
What we did with our daughter was we asked her to be self-reliant or to make choices for herself from even the earliest ages, and then we gave her responsibilities at different ages of life, like the story about her negotiating at 4 years old a bedtime that she then took responsibility for and prepared her bed and herself to go to bed at that certain time. And then at 11 years old, we took all the reins off on the amount of sugar she could eat and gave her that full responsibility. And she went way overboard for a while, and then she pulled it back in. And now she's better at self-control about sugar than I would ever be.
Than you are, actually.
Than I am. So by giving our children the responsibilities to self-regulate, that's the word, self-regulate their lives in different categories, they develop that strength and confidence in themselves. Even if they have to go through what appears to be an uncomfortable or even miserable period of time, they do make that adjustment, and then they are so much more capable of self-regulating their lives when they go away to college than someone who's had helicopter parents.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me get a little more specific. So my challenge is getting my son focused on goals and plans. He seems to be drifting and not choosing. So one, Eileen, I don't know if your son wants to go to college. So that would be the question I would ask is, does he want to go to college, or do you want him to go to college? Because if he doesn't want to go to college, then he is going to drift and probably not choose something because maybe he has something else he wants to do. So I don't know if he's a junior or a senior. I'm concerned. So for Mecca did want to go to college. And so what we did, and she knew nothing about college, didn't know where she wanted to go. So because I'm very organized, we started just having conversations. Okay, what region do you want to go to? Well, actually, we just looked at weather. What kind of weather do you want? Moderate weather. Okay, so that immediately eliminates certain things. How big? School size. So we came up with some criteria, kind of as a family, but really her. And then each week we kind of checked in with her, but then she was responsible for finding the colleges, because the conversations that we've had, not just around this, but everything, like, this is your life. And so I'm not going to be more invested or responsible than you are in your life. And so maybe you've been planning and doing everything for your son so that he feels like he doesn't have to. I don't know. It's kind
or
of
he
right.
hasn't developed the skills
hasn't
and
developed-
confidence to feel like he can, and he's just resting on you doing the work for him.
So my first question, or the first conversation I would have with your son is, do you want to go to college? And then from there, then you guys kind of work out some benchmarks. I mean, I think it was like every 2 weeks we would meet, and she would come and report on the colleges that we found, and then we would look at it as a family. And then when she got down to her 3 top choices, we went and visited them.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been developing this skill with her all along of, okay, this is your assignment and this is when it's due. And then letting her do that. I'm concerned he's going to lose momentum and motivation and end up living at home with us, playing video games and building a successful life. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's important to, first off, let your kid go far enough on his own to find out, for him to discover if he really wants to go to college. And I know that's hard for a lot of parents to do, but it's imperative. Otherwise, they just wander through life going to college and doing jobs that they don't feel any fulfillment in. And they get to be 30, 40 years old and wonder what the hell's up with life. The fact that you're concerned he's going to lose momentum and motivation tells me that you're probably driving this program yourself. And the hardest thing you're going to have to do is let go and let him find his own desires.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's hard to do. I can't imagine it. I really can't. But if you let him find his own desires, you can also set the rules that you cannot live here past 20, past 18, past 22, whatever. So you got to hold him responsible. You got to let him go and find his own world. And then you got to hold him responsible by moving out of the house.
Yeah.
You don't agree with that?
No, I absolutely do agree. I mean, I think you have conversations, you set up kind of guidelines, and then you got to pull your energy out, and then you have consequences.
Yes.
And then you got to follow through with the consequences.
And being a conscious parent doesn't mean there are no consequences. It means there are consequences. That you're going to reap whatever you sow, and you're going to be responsible for your own life, like it or not.
Yeah.
It's being a new age parent is not all about letting everything go by and the world's just a wonderful place. It's about participating.
Absolutely. When Mecca was younger and we had a conversation because she didn't want to do her homework, or she didn't like the way we were doing her homework. But really, the conversations were like, I have my education, so this is about your education. And so what do you want to create for your life? And having those kinds of conversations, because maybe your vision for him is bigger than his vision for himself.
Or different.
Different.
Yeah.
And so maybe he does have a plan that he may be afraid to share because you guys may not like his plan. And so if you're really going to open up the space, you want to create a safe space so that he can really share what his desires are. And then you look at how you can support him with that. Because college is not necessarily right for everyone.
No, and I've heard this happens to boys more than girls by far. I've heard this complaint about them. And I didn't go to college. My 2 brothers and sisters did go to college. And ultimately, we all turned out great and are doing well in our own way of life. So there is no set way it should be. And if I think they should be a certain way, that's a dead giveaway that I'm the one off track and not my child.
So thank you, Eileen in Connecticut. And just real quick, I know that a lot of people would like additional support. And so I invite you to look at my website and look to see what support could look like. I offer free 30-minute conscious connection calls where we'll look at your particular situation, map out a mini plan, and see if it's a fit for us to work together. so that you can have that support and that transformation that you want to have the peace and joy as a parent, whether you're an empty nester or whether you have younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Eileen in Connecticut, Shirley in New Brunswick.
I'm a bit new to the concept of conscious parenting, and I'm wondering how you make the shift of control over to your kids and have them make good choices. My 2 kids are also approaching college age. I like to approach the process in a more conscious way rather than power controlling fights. What can you suggest?
Well,
Your books.
And I actually have a free workshop coming up, from conflict to connection, 3 tools to stop the power struggles. So Shelley in New Brunswick, it's about really learning tools for yourself.
Well, how can she
so
locate
that? Hold on.
Okay.
So that you can feel confident as a parent. And so when you feel confident as a parent, you start letting go of control. You start seeing that your kids have their own life purpose that's separate from yours. And so we're here as way showers for our kids. They have a separate life purpose. And so it's not about us trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's for them. And so what Thomas was talking about is my book, Tips and Trips of Parenting a New Age Kid. And you can only see it if you're on the YouTube channel.
Well, yeah.
And then 21 Lessons to Empower the New Age Kid. And this
where do
one's,
they get these?
They're on Amazon. And these books are tools for you. And the 21 Lessons to Empower the New Age Kid is a series of lessons and conversations that teach kids to have agency and responsibility over their own lives. So that's where you would start, Shelley in New Brunswick.
And that's on Amazon. It's Sandra Jones-Keller is the author.
Yes. Thank you. Let's
see if we have another hour.
Let's see if we have one more. Okay, 6 minutes to the top.
We're gonna get the last one in for this.
No,
hour.
that was the last one.
Oh, okay. We did it.
We did it. So I want to thank you for being with us. Conscious parenting is not about hands off. It's not about never making a mistake. It's not about trying to be perfect. It's about leaning in, supporting, advocating for, and recognizing your kid as this individual, intelligent being. And so I love this. And so just earlier this week, when my daughter was upset about something that was going on with her roommate, I got so triggered on the phone that I had to get off the phone because it was just like, I was just so upset. And then I realized that I didn't really ask her how she felt about it. Like I was all consumed with my feelings about it. And so I did my forgiveness work. I got myself grounded, and then I called her back to ask how she was doing. And so it's not that we're perfect all the time. We don't get upset. We don't get triggered, because I most certainly got triggered. Mm-hmm. But I did realize that I got triggered, and I did realize that I was consumed in my own upset. And then I made a conscious choice to call her back, to be there for her, mm-hmm. to ask her how she was doing, to ask her what she needed. So conscious parenting, we're working it out moment by moment. This is new territory for us. And so when we trip up, or maybe I wasn't the most supportive at the moment, I caught myself and I recommitted and I leaned in. And so I love conscious parenting because it is an evolutionary process.
Yes.
We're always
There's as
learning.
Much growth for us as there is for our children.
And then I look at who she's being and how she's navigating these complex relationships that she's never had to. Mm-hmm. And so that comes from creating a foundation for your kids. It's having them make choices and not suffering, but dealing with the consequences. And if you start doing that while they're at home, while they're in this safe container, then when they go out, they have the skill.
Yep.
It is a skill. It's not something that's going to be learned overnight. So you can start doing that now. So, any last words before we start closing up?
I still think we should do another hour right now.
Okay, so you're not being serious.
I am being serious. This is a serious subject, and I like to have fun because it is such a serious subject. The fun balances it out a little bit. So just because I'm lighthearted doesn't mean I'm not profound.
Okay, if you say so.
Well, let me just qualify that. Just because I'm lighthearted has nothing to do with how profound I actually am.
Okay, that I will agree with.
I'm not sure that came out the right way.
So we've come to the end of our show. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Mecca, who's off living her life, for being with me today. The Conscious Parenting Show is live the second Friday of each month at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on News for the Soul Radio. Go back and check out the archives. We have 30 other shows to check out. So if you're new to us, we have plenty of content for you. My books are available on Amazon. And for more information about me, visit my website, sandrajoneskeller.com. And if you would like additional support, check out my website, reach out and schedule your free conscious connection call so that we can look at your own personal situation and figure out how to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So thank you and happy parenting.